Hello, my presentation on Science Preceding the End of the World by Yuri Herrera is about the objectification of Makina. And before I started this presentation, I wanted to point out that Makina is not a meek, childlike woman, but rather a strong one. She's confident in her sexuality, she's open about it, and Herrera also mentions that men swoon after her, but she ignores it in her own way. I feel that this is important to point out because the narrative for a lot of boys and men is that women want to be objectified. And this is a social standpoint outside of the book, and it can also kind of be seen within the book as well, that men just expect that women want to be touched or talked to or looked at in the way that happens to Makina, but it isn't true. And even though she is a very sensual woman, it's unwarranted. She doesn't want it. My first example is of physical objectification, and I talk about the bus incident. There's two quotes. Two men ogled her in the bus ticket line. One pushed his face close as he passed and said, "Lucky is my middle name." Makina already knows this sort of attention that she's going to get in this way, and she's preparing herself for it. These men board this bus, the same bus as her. They move to go behind her a few seats back, but then the one that had said this to her moves up, and this is the action that happens next. Barely bothering to fake it, he dropped his left hand onto his own left leg, languidly letting it sag onto the seat and brush her thighs on the way back up. No harm intended, of course. This is intentional. It shows that there's this dynamic of it wasn't intentional, quote unquote, and she wants it, that type of thing, but Makina doesn't want this, and her reaction is actually to kind of treat the man that he was treating her, and she just tells him to be quiet, and she bends his finger back and tells him not to do that again. So she gets physical in that aspect. An example of visual objectification is in the stadium with Mr. P. She is delivering her package, and it says, "Mr. P, though, kept leering and smiling at Makina and patting his dangling knife, and she wanted to go, but couldn't muster enough of a voice for even the first syllable. 'Wouldn't you like to come work for me, child?' asked Mr. P, eyeing her crotch." To me, this is a way to see if she'll go into sex trafficking for him. She just wants to find her brother, and although before this we've seen her, as with the bus incident, she was very strong and outgoing. Mr. P is this kind of intimidating man, and she knows that he is the ringleader of this mob, so she kind of doesn't want to get involved that way. She just wants to find her brother. Example of verbal objectification. This is the red-headed Anglo incident, and she is looking to find her brother on the street. She's asking people where to find him after she's given this address, and says, "You looking to get what you deserve, you scum?" She opened her eyes. A huge red-headed Anglo who stank of tobacco was staring at her. Makina knew the bastard was just itching to kick her or fuck her. And it goes on to say that Makina stood up to him. This is verbal, and in a way it also talks about how there's racism mixed into this as well. But she is still being objectified. He's looking at her in a way like he wants to take her all in, that type of thing. So what's the importance of this? The objectification she experiences from men hinders her journey in some ways, so it kind of puts her off kilter, not completely, but in some small ways, essentially, that she's focusing on that because she has to defend herself, and while she's trying to get to her brother, these I don't want to call them small, but they're small in her journey that affect her over, like, it takes her a little longer to get where she needs to go because of them. And it's also a wonder, if Makina was a man in the story, it may have played out differently. So, not that men don't get objectified sexually, it's just that it probably wouldn't have been an issue if she was a man in this story. And I think the reason that Herrera chose to make Makina was to point out that she is a woman, so she's already in a minority of sorts in terms of treatment. She is also an illegal immigrant, making an illegal immigrant's journey to America as a woman who's getting objectified, who's going through all of these hoops just to find her brother. So I just think it's a very strong point to be made by Herrera for that it's not an easy journey, and being a woman makes it even harder. So that is my presentation.